Well, the whole world has spent much of the last year focused on Hollywood's Me Too movement, where top actresses have spoken out against the sexual assault and abuse that they have faced from the industry's leading lights. It was so powerful that it in fact spawned Me Too movements across the world, across professions. But what many people do not know is that even before Hollywood spoke up, the women of the Malayalam industry of Mollywood, as it's called, were fighting their own battle against harassment and discrimination. Last year, they even formed a group called the Women in Cinema Collective after the kidnapping and sexual assault of a leading actress. Superstar Dileep was charge-sheeted and arrested for that crime and removed from the actor's body. That was the Association of Malayalam Movie Artists. But now the outcry is back because Dileep is out on bail. His trial is still on. And under superstar Mohanlal, he has been reinstated in the Actors Association. It has divided the Malayalam film industry right down the middle. And these brave women continue to speak out and fight against this deep-rooted misogyny. Film critic Anna Vedikar joining us here in the studio. She wrote a terrific piece on this earlier this week. Padma Priya Janki Raman, who is an actor who is also part of this women's collective that has now been formed in Kerala to fight this, to stand up for women's issues. She's with us. And Beena Paul, who is a founding member of the Women in Collective Cinema, also joining us tonight. I'm going to take this to you, Padma Priya, first. About your own experiences. It must be very disconcerting to see the way the film industry there right now is divided. It's also interesting that it hasn't gotten the kind of attention that, say, a similar scandal in Bollywood would have got. I don't even know how many people would speak out in Bollywood the way you guys have.
Well, I think the comparisons should be kept at rest a bit because the systems that we have in place do not really provide the kind of space for people to speak up. The associations and the fraternity is constructed in such a way that, non-issues are treated as non-issues and are never spoken about. I think what happened in the Malayalam film industry is that these issues always existed like in every other film industry, and one major shift that's happened is that we have at least changed the narrative from it being a scandal to a real issue. And it must be commended that one of our colleagues who survived through this entire terrible incident that took place with her set kind of a catalyst, became a catalyst for all of us to come together and bring our points across on the fact that there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed with regards women's space in the film fraternity, especially as a workplace.
But you know what I think is shocking for us, as it was when the Hollywood stories were coming out, Padma Priya, whether it was Harvey Weinstein, whether it was, the other big Hollywood names, Kevin Spacey, etc., was just the sheer disappointment at, the level of misogyny that it went right up to people that, we all respected and admired. Then you see someone like Mohanlal, who is now heading this association. He's a legend. And under his watch, Dileep is brought back into the fold. The guy is on trial for this assault. And I don't know how that sort of impacted you when this first happened.
I think it is. It does leave a very huge impact on all of us, and that's precisely why we're speaking up against it. I think what's a little appalling and a little disturbing to all of us is that if this is a scenario for a grievous incident of this nature, where the experiment member who is part of an alleged incident which is criminal, which is highly criminal in nature, is still being kept, then what kind of a message do we send out of being tolerant towards creating a gender equal society through the film fraternity itself? And if issues of this grievous in nature is not addressed well, then what do we expect of different kinds of natures of harassment that takes place on women? And I think it is a little distressing that we are not really a fair fraternity to speak of.
Beena Paul, what kind of pushback have you faced, and both you and Padma Priya for that matter, with this sort of women's collective? I think firstly that itself must have been a sort of a radical idea for the industry. Did you face a lot of pushback, or do you actually see a lot more support that everyone supporting each other in this fight?
It's quite interesting because, frankly, I'm a little bit of a retired professional. I'm not working full-time as a film professional at the moment. But what I do find now is that at least the issue is out there. When I started working in film many years ago, one daren't even think of sort of raising a gender issue. What WCC has done today is put it center stage. That, I think, is the most important. We are not only talking about sexual harassment, we are talking also about working conditions, we are talking about definitions about workplace, we are talking about ICCs. There are huge number of issues that WCC wants to forefront. And I think it's really been nice, because for many years you were very lonely and you faced a lot of things, quite a lot of attitude problems alone. We seem to have, though it was unfortunately a horrible incident that brought us together, it's really been nice for all of us, because I think also we've reflected among ourselves, we've talked these issues through.
Absolutely.
So it's been a growth not only for us, but also I think for the industry. It's not an easy, it's not been an easy path, or it isn't an easy path, we know that.
That's pretty clear. But you know, it's amazing that you're doing it. It's amazing that you're doing it and you're standing up to this. And Anna, the point that you also made in your piece, I know Padma Priya said that let's not make comparisons, but we will make comparisons. I mean, the fact is, you're right. The Malayalam film industry was revolting against this. Actresses were revolting against this way before the whole Hollywood thing happened. It just wasn't taken notice of, and now the
Nidhi, I'd like to just add that it's not only. Can I just interrupt?
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Nidhi, can I just interrupt for a second? It's not only actresses. We were a lot of, I mean, we're a whole lot of professionals in the group who have
in the film industry.
That's
a fair point. So
yes,
you know,
so
this issue actually deserved a lot more attention that it's got.
Well, I think it's very gracious of you to accept that, Nidhi, because the article that you're referring to that I mentioned, I was very angry when I wrote it, because this assault took place in February of 2017, and the fact that the woman in question is a very prominent actress. And the fact that it did not get the kind of attention it should have from TV channels and newspapers headquartered in Delhi, Bombay, outside southern India.
We definitely covered the story, but I'm talking about, I think, the larger problem.
You know that it would have been prime time discussions for 1.5 years if it had been from Bollywood. Now, the reason why I think that is very important is not because I want to give trophies to Beena and Padma Priya and Parvati and all the other founder members of the Women in Cinema Collective, but because I think the national scrutiny on the men of the Malayalam industry would have made them more accountable, and I do not think that the situation would have come to the pass that it is now, where an actor as respected as Mohanlal, heading the Association of Malayalam Movie Artists, is at a meeting where Dileep, who was expelled last year when he was arrested, is reinstated despite being an accused in this case. And think of the horrendousness of it. He is one of the biggest superstars in the Malayalam film industry, and he did this allegedly to this woman. It needed to be covered because the coverage would have meant support for these brave women, and that support would have made their battle that much easier. If, as Padma Priya pointed out, for a crime as grievous as this, if there are the men of the Malayalam industry that are still being casual about it. Mohanlal had a press conference on Monday because the liberal media and public in southern India has been amazing. They have been lambasting the Malayalam film industry.
Actually, big sections of the industry themselves have been lambasting
There have been sections of the industry who have been quite wonderful, like Ashik Abu, the director, Prithvi Raj, the actor. But because of the criticism, Mohanlal held a press conference, and you know what? One of the things he said was, well, you know, none of the women who were present at the press conference objected to the reinstatement of Dileep. So I'm sorry, but firstly, why did you inform everyone in advance that this would be on the agenda? It is such a major issue. Secondly, why is the onus on the women only to object, Mr. Mohanlal? I mean, I grew up loving this man and his work, and I still love his acting, but this is where it hurts. It hurt because, you know, you loved Kevin Spacey's work, you trusted a Dustin Hoffman and you realized that they had feet of clay and they were just awful human beings. And Mohanlal should have been the one himself who should have objected when someone said
I just want to say on record here that we did try the Actors Association, which Mohanlal is heading, to come and join us on the program today, and well, they said no. I mean, they just sort of declined to be part of this program. I do wonder why, because if they think that they did the right thing, then they should have been here to talk about it. But then, Padma Priya, the question is, one part of this battle is about this case with Dileep. The other part is the sort of day-to-day misogyny and the environment, the work environment that you go to. Do you see do you think anything has changed at all with, you know, the women actors, directors, technicians, etc., all sort of banding together under this women's collective? Do you see any change in attitude at all, or is there still a deep-seated misogyny there?
I mean, let's face this fact. It's been there for so many centuries that for one to expect a change overnight is asking for much, right? I think what it has done, and it should hopefully do this in other film industries. I've worked in Tamil, Bengali, Hindi, and I think it's not something which is just restricted to Malayalam. But I think it's an interesting journey that we have seen. There are two sides to it, right? Like what I think the whole collective movement led to is open up a can of worms.
Yeah.
And a lot of people disagreed before that there was a can of worms. Everybody would say everything is fine in the industry, we are all a family, which is not true. And the fact is that family could also have issues was not something which was considered as important. Some of, I think, the positive things which has been is one of these filmmakers whose work I have seen a lot actually came out in the open after, I think there was a conversation where Parvati had in public about how misogyny exists in film scripts and how we need to counter it. Now the fact is that the idea of sexism on film scripts is a very, very confusing idea, and one needs to explore it. And the fact that this filmmaker came out in the open and actually admitted that he's probably not on the best, or did not make the best decisions by making a script which was so sexist, is a one step forward for us. On the other hand, I think there are a lot of people still believe that, because most of them believe that these are non-issues, right? Whether it's, I mean, it's not just about sexual harassment, as Beena pointed out. It's about a lot of other things. It's about the fact that you treat your female professionals as important as your male professional, as dependable as your male professional, and make them have opportunities in the same way as everybody else at workplace. And I'm not just talking about actors, but I'm talking about a whole fraternity of technicians and other creative people like editors and filmmakers. And say that what is it that we can proactively do to have you included in this space? It's a difficult space to work in. It is a 24/7 workplace. But why is it that a media channels like television channels also have work on a 24/7 space today? How is it that it has more female participation compared to the film fraternity as such? There are a whole lot of issues. We do not have a grievance redressal system. We do not have, I mean, if we have an issue, we don't know whom to go to, what's the due process. If there are some proactive things, like even simple stuff like having hygiene facilities available in a film set not being there, then what are the kind of proactive steps that that organizations should do?
And it's really
has come out in the open and was never discussed before. It's out in the open today.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that people are starting to engage with that material is, I think, a great step forward.
You're having that conversation. So, Anna, can I ask you at the end that, do you think that this kind of a Me Too, this kind of a pushback is ever going to be possible in Bollywood?
One more point I want to add is the fact that even through this entire incident...
Sorry, Padma Priya, I'll just give you the last word. I'll just ask Anna this question. Do you think it's possible?
I think that there are off-the-record conversations that I have had with...
I'll just come back to you, Padma Priya.
There are off-the-record conversations I've had with women of the Hindi film industry, Bollywood, who are aware of what is going on in Kerala and who have actually found the formation of the Women in Cinema Collective very inspiring. But they also realize and they feel that actually their task is much greater, because at the end of the day, whatever Kerala's faults might be, the fact is, it is the most literate and the most educated state in the country, which is probably why the public and the press have really stood by the women of the Women in Cinema Collective. And I don't know whether the filmmakers who have spoken for them are being honest about it or not, but you know what, as someone told me from the Women in Cinema Collective the other day, as women, we just need to accept whatever crumbs that come our way and latch on to them and try and build upon that. Now, for instance, there is a filmmaker called Renji Panikkar who gave an interview saying that he's sorry for the content he has generated in the past. The truth is, I'm a little cynical about Mr. Panikkar's apology. On the other hand, Prithviraj Sukumaran last year put out this wonderful statement where he said he did not even realize there were films in which he was acting which were sexist. He is not going to do that anymore. And I do trust him because he's one of the men who really stood by the WCC. Hopefully, Bollywood will find them inspiring. I know there has been a move from the Tamil industry to also try and form something like this.
I think once you start unpeeling the layers, there's a lot that's going to come out there as well. But I'm out of time. Thank you so much to all of you for coming in today and talking about this. And I think we need to keep focused on this issue. So keep telling us how that fight is going.